leadership, Google, Amazon, Microsoft have internal quantum initiatives, but we believe we're far ahead of them, in fact. So the head of Google Quantum Computing joined IONQ last year. And so we're winning the talent war even before we went public. We believe that we have a 2-year plus lead over other players. It might, in fact, be much more than 2 years, depending on which technology people are pursuing in the world of quantum computing. And we think that by merging, obviously, with DMYI, we're providing a public listing, $650 million of more capital. We're also providing operating relationships and new pipe investors. So I'm sure you saw the press release that we put out yesterday. But in addition to Bill Gates's Breakthrough Energy Ventures, you have affiliates of MSD Capital, which is obviously Michael Dell's family office, as most people know. You have Silver Lake, you have Hyundai, you have Mubadala, the sovereign wealth fund of the UAE. You've got Google Ventures. And you've also got existing backers like Samsung, Lockheed Martin, Bosch, and Airbus. So it's really an impressive list of people that have supported and are supporting IONQ's success. And it is my humble opinion in the world of technology stocks, once you establish leadership early on, it's very difficult, if not almost impossible, for second and third followers to catch up. We've got the money, we've got the customers, we've got the strategic ecosystem, we have the app ecosystem, and most of all, we have the talent.
Yeah, perfect. I wanted to hop into those investors. So for those of you watching who may not know, so existing investors in IONQ, this list is amazing. We have Google Ventures, Amazon, Lockheed Martin, Hewlett Packard, Airbus, and Samsung, and many, many more. So taking a step back, Niccolo, with DMYI, you can choose any company to bring public. I know, the technology with IONQ, probably jumped off the charts, but what do you think when you find a company, that already has these leading investors behind it? Is that a huge sign of, hey, I want to get behind this company and bring it public?
Yeah, so as you might remember, Chris, I'm a physicist originally. So my undergrad and master's degree are both from Cambridge University in physics. And so believe it or not, I studied the work of people like Chris Monroe, who's one of the founders, if not the founder, of IONQ when I was in graduate school. So believe it or not, I have followed this space for well over 20 years, closer to 25 than 20 years. And, I'd say that early on, I'd say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, I was skeptical of the progress that quantum computing was making relative to Professor Feynman's postulations, 20, 30 years ago. But in the last 5 years, two things have happened. One, about $2 billion of venture capital has flowed into about 85 companies in the space, at least according to The Economist, last quarter, last year. And there's been a number of breakthroughs. So IONQ in the last 3 years, if you look at BCG, the consulting company, put out a report in 2017 and a report in 2019. If you look at the progress that's been made in the past 2-3 years by IONQ, we have effectively pulled forward the era when quantum computing matters to you and I and to enterprise customers, right? So instead of 2028, 2030 being when broad quantum advantage happens, Google themselves demonstrated quantum supremacy last year on a specific problem. And what IONQ is, we believe, on the verge of demonstrating the next 3 to 5 years is broad quantum supremacy on things like, AI, machine learning, natural language processing. If you listen to the materials, by the way, on the DMY and IONQ websites, you can see on our slides, and I think you've looked at the slides because you pulled one up there, things like handwriting recognition. We can already do that on an 11-qubit system as well as a classical computer or a classical supercomputer. And so we think facial recognition, we think machine learning, there will be real advances here in the next 2 to 3 years, such to the point that large customers of ours, whether or not, you're looking at enterprises, like a Goldman Sachs, a JP Morgan, a Lockheed Martin, everybody's preparing for the quantum era. They are actually already hiring people, they're hiring PhDs, and they're getting ready, and they're publishing papers on the algorithms they're going to apply to IONQ's hardware when it's ready, because they know it's a game changer, right? You can't be the CEO of a company like Lockheed where you're building the next, stealth bomber or something that takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years to pull off. You can't be that CEO that says, oh yeah, I didn't optimize by a factor of 10 or 100 or 1,000.
Lead with their technology.
Yeah. Look, that is the key slide. So I appreciate you pulling that up. And to be honest, it's like, why did we choose this company to IPO? Like, well, this slide kind of makes the point, right? There are very few technology markets where, this early on, you can say there's somebody that's this far ahead of everybody else. And to be honest, I don't think there's going to be anyone that competes with us, credibly in the next 3, 5, 7 years, because the advantages of getting the customers, getting the revenue, proving this out, and getting the capital we provided to continue to drive the lead is going to be really difficult, if not almost impossible, I would argue, to catch up. By the way, this is the 32 qubit system we're looking at here. If we put out the 64 qubit system, the bar chart, wouldn't fit on the page. You'd have to take like the natural log of it to get it to fit on the page, right? Because it'd be so much exponentially more powerful. So look, I mean, there are people that think that in 2030 or 2028 or something like that, they will magically have a machine that competes with IONQ in 2028. But, look, all of us on this call know that the history of technology markets would show that generally, whether you're a Google or you're a Microsoft or Amazon, if you're ahead of the pack in an area and you have the capital and the customers you can invest in it, you're going to attract more talent. And there's a virtuous circle between capital, talent, product quality, and breakthroughs, and be able to fund more R&D. So I think there might be some acqui-hires IONQ makes, but its organic trajectory and ecosystem is going to be so far ahead of anybody that turns up 5, 6, 7 years later that I find it hard to believe that we won't be the most powerful player in the space perennially. I do believe that, NVIDIA is a great parallel in some ways. When they IPO'd, they probably had a market cap similar to IONQ's, whenever it was, 2001. That business today is, a $300 billion, $350 billion market cap business. I do think IONQ will be a $100 billion plus market cap business someday. Could be more. It could be the next Tesla, if you will, because being first in these markets have just huge network effects, right? And I think the way this technology develops is exponential progress is happening every year to such an extent, like I keep saying, that if you're the CEO of a Fortune 100 business, you can't afford to not pay for access to our machine because your competitors will do it. And competitors will have a massive cost optimization and business advantage if you miss out on it. So I'm not going to say we're going to be a monopoly. It will certainly be an oligopoly. But I think that we're going to be the business to beat probably at all times, to be blunt.